Sit down, right there, don't go nowhere, little baby gon' shake that, 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 shit, yeah, I like that, bring that right here, sit that, right there, don't go nowhere, say yeah, I like that, bring that right here, sit that, right there, don't go nowhere.
Welcome back, we back with another reaction video. I know it's been a minute, but after a little hiatus, we are back with a Maddie Balls video. Terrible crimes committed by musicians. Let's get right into it.
As we know, the music industry can be a very dark place where a lot of shady things go down. From Rick James kidnapping and torturing someone to straight up murder and cannibalism. There have been a lot of terrible crimes committed by musicians. So today we're going to be looking into awful crimes committed by musicians, starting off with Big Lurch. Real quick, I wanted to say I got this video idea from my boy Tuv. He did a similar video, but I wanted to look at a few different examples. And I also wanted to say there's a lot of pretty dark topics in here, if you couldn't tell by the intro. So just wanted to do a broad trigger warning because yeah, some of these topics are pretty bad. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Big Lurch is a rapper who started his career in the 80s and moved to the Bay Area to work on his music. Probably the most notable artist he ever worked with was E40. Throughout the 90s, he was working on music and performing. He had a really unique voice and sound, and it was very promising. But in the year 2000, Big Lurch had a lot of hardship, with his grandma dying and him getting in a nearly fatal car accident. His neck was broken and he was temporarily paralyzed, so many people thought he was using PCP to cope with the pain. However, Lurch said in an interview that he hadn't smoked PCP until the night of his crime. But apparently he also said he did use it to cope with the pain, so that part is a little unclear. Eventually, he signed to a label called Black Market Records, and apparently a lot of the members from this label, including the owner Milton Grimes, were Crips. Big Lurch was a Blood, so there was a bit of tension, so he moved back to his home state of Texas. Eventually though, he came back to LA to finish his album and moved into a dope house. In 2002, while working on his album, there was a party at his apartment. His roommate, who is a gang member, had his girl Tanisha over. He said they were passing around PCP and he only smoked weed, but he said he tried it that night. And the next thing he knew, he woke up in an LA County jail.
I want to fit in, you know, I don't want to look like a punk. I smoke weed, tobacco. I don't even drink. So I'm like, fuck it, I hit the wet. And I wake up, man. I had been in jail for like 2 weeks.
Tanisha's body was found the next day with multiple
Bro, peer pressure is crazy, ain't it? Why would you allow yourself, bro? I'm not smoking PCP. Are you crazy?
injuries and bite marks. The police found Lurch naked running through the streets, claiming he was covered in blood. They even said that they found pieces of Tanisha in Lurch's stomach. So right away it seems like Lurch is guilty of cannibalism and murder. However, many people believe that Lurch was set up by the owner of the label, Milton Grimes. This is because Grimes was assigned to be Lurch's lawyer. At the time, Lurch was on psych meds as they were pleading insanity. More specifically, he was on haloperidol, which Mayo Clinic says this medicine may cause someone to become dizzy, drowsy, or may cause trouble with thinking or controlling body movements. So Lurch couldn't really speak for himself. The case that Grimes had made was pretty weak and there were a lot of holes. First of all, pleading insanity in California doesn't work when you're a voluntary drug user. It can be used if you have a history of mental illness, and Lurch had been hospitalized previously for bipolar disorder 2 times, but that wasn't brought up. As for the bite marks, Lurch said there were dogs in the house and that it was never brought up, and the bite marks were never tested. There were a lot of handprints everywhere, but they weren't used in the case. Lurch also says it was a dope house, but it was cleaned up with no drugs or guns or anything like that. And Tanisha was also found with a lot of PCP in her system, even with her mom saying she didn't use PCP, and it was too much in her system to smoke, so it was thought that it was poured down her throat. They even used some of Lurch's darker, unreleased music against him in court, which just recently became illegal. On top of all of the evidence that wasn't used in court, Milton Grimes was sued for malpractice in 2004 by another client and was ordered to pay $1.2 million. Lurch himself believes that Grimes did this because he knew the DA and everyone at the court and wanted to gain favor with another case. On top of all of these inconsistencies in Big Lurch's case, the victim's mom sued the label, claiming the label provided him with drugs to act out in a violent way. She thinks that the label wanted to market him as a gangster rap artist. She doesn't think that Lurch killed Tanisha. She instead thinks that it was her boyfriend who was a gang member and had previously beat her before. Apparently, Tanisha was about to walk out right before this happened.
I believe he the one set all this up. He was beating on her. She had all her stuff packed.
ready to leave the day all this happened.
She also points out that Tanisha was struck in the back of the neck with a scooter that belonged to one of her kids, and there was a bloody handprint on the scooter that wasn't Lurch's. So you're probably thinking, despite all of this, what about the pieces of Tanisha that were in Lurch's stomach? Well, Lurch says all they found was a very small portion of the victim, and the victim's mother thinks that Lurch was so high he may have mistaken it for a piece of meat or been tricked by the people that set him up. Regardless of all this, he was sentenced to life in prison in 2003 without parole. Following the trial and the sentencing, there was even more shady stuff that happened. The label put out an album that Lurch had been working on and titled it It's All Bad. Lurch said the original name of the album was supposed to be The Puppet Master, so this further backs what Tanisha's mom was saying about the label trying to market him as a gangster rapper. On top of that, they photoshopped a picture of Lurch holding a platter with a skull on it for the cover, clearly trying to use this case to market the album. They later released a documentary about him called Drugs Made Me Do It, again without his permission.
Behind the biography I did called Drugs Made Me Do It. You know, I didn't even know that was going to be the name, but, you know, they put it out on some Hollywood shit, and I'm a real life human, so the guards hit the building fucking with me. Drugs made me do it. Ooh, I smoke sherm.
So it's very clear that the label...
Yo, them guards was... Yo, them niggas funny, bruh. I smoke sherm. Damn, it's not funny, but like, yo, hey, them guards is ruthless.
Did profit from this incident. So whether or not you think Lurch was set up, this was a very controversial crime, and Lurch has been fighting for a retrial. And while Big Lurch has been garnering some sympathy from fans, very few people have sympathy for Varg Vikernes after he murdered someone. Varg Vikernes is one of the most notorious metal artists of all time because of his crimes and his beliefs. And you really can't make a video like this without mentioning Varg. Recently, he even saw a surge in popularity again thanks to Kanye wearing one of his shirts and releasing cover art inspired by Varg's. So Varg first got some popularity recording under the alias Burzum, but things really got crazy when he joined the band Mayhem. The band was fairly popular, especially because of the lead singer Dead taking his life a year prior. Varg joined as a bassist and quickly became controversial. That's because in June of 1992, a 800-year-old church was burned down and its remains were used as the cover for one of Burzum's albums. 7 other churches were burned down around this time as well, and Varg was later convicted of arson. Don't worry, as that is bad, that was not the awful crime Varg was convicted of. Varg and Mayhem's guitarist Euronymous planned an interview with 2 journalists to promote black metal and to scare people, in which they basically admitted to burning down the churches, and said that they were devil worshippers. They were also trying to drive sales to Euronymous' store Helvete, which will later become a topic of divide between the two. These guys were both strange, saying that a lot of their listeners were unworthy of listening to their music or said you had to be a Satanist to be in the black metal scene. So yeah, these guys were pretty weird. And Euronymous and Varg started beefing because Varg thought Euronymous was too arrogant, and people also think Varg wanted Euronymous' power, which all resulted in Varg murdering his fellow bandmate Euronymous. The story surrounding this murder has a few different perspectives and it can get a little bit murky, so I'll do my best to sum it up. Basically, Varg and another bandmate, Blackthorn, drove up to Oslo where Euronymous was staying, supposedly trying to give him a contract.
And he opened the door. When I got up in the apartment, he panicked because, he probably, he had plans to kill me, so he panicked. He attacked me, he kicked me in the chest, I just threw him to the ground. Suddenly he got up, trying to get to his knife in the kitchen. And I thought, well, if he's gonna have a knife, I'm gonna have a knife. So I had a pocket knife, this small pocket knife. Started to run off towards his bedroom, where we kept the shotgun that Dead shot himself with.
What? Okay. It's too much going on. So, I didn't mishear that the first time. You telling me your band leader's name is Dead? I hope it's not D-E-A-D. But that's also crazy foreshadowing because he offed himself. Secondly, he went to the kitchen to get a knife. Why did you not leave? Run. Escape. Like, what the... I'm not staying in a room for you to do nothing. Then you telling me he still got the shotgun of the deceased? Like, bro, I'm not... Why are you in this man's apartment? Crib. Domicile.
It's turned out later on that he didn't have any of these things in the bedroom, but I believed it at the time. And that is the reason I followed him. And instead of going into the bedroom, he just left the building, really. He just started to run down the stairs. And I followed him and managed to stop him. Osset got up and attacked me again. So I finished Osset off, stabbed him in the skull, so he died immediately.
What? He left. You then followed him. What? What? You're crazy. Wait, it went from self-defense to, nah, I'm spinning back. You should have finished the job. Like, what?
According to Varg, Euronymous attacked him first and Varg killed him in self-defense. Varg said that Euronymous used the meeting to ambush and attack him. Euronymous had made some death threats against Varg to a few other friends and members of Mayhem. Varg said, if he was talking about it to everybody and anybody, I wouldn't have taken it seriously. But he just told a select group of friends, and one of them told me. However, Euronymous was found with 23 stab wounds, many of which were to the back, so the self-defense argument seemed a bit shaky. Blackthorn said that Varg was planning to kill Euronymous and that he was pressured to go with. Varg, on the other hand, said that Blackthorn just wanted to show Euronymous some new guitar riffs. Another Mayhem member, Necro Butcher, said that Varg killed Euronymous because of the death threats, not in self-defense. As you can see, there are many different perspectives, but the court sided against Varg's self-defense claims. He was arrested August 19th of 1993, and in his home the police found a bunch of explosives and 3,000 rounds of ammunition. Varg was sentenced to 21 years in prison for murdering his bandmate Euronymous and burning down 3 churches. Blackthorn got 8 years for being an accomplice. While in prison, Varg started a neo-Nazi group and has not been shy about his beliefs. Nowadays, Varg is out of prison, writing vlogs, and posting online. He even recently showed his support for Kanye after Kanye wore his merch, and even showed off a Bertram-inspired album cover for Vulture.
Huh? Because it's a Yahtzee. And Ye was anti, you know. What? They don't like black people either, Nick. Yo, Ye. What? This nigga's insane, bro. Helium gas, man. That's his new name. Helium gas.
So while Varg has gotten some love from Kanye lately, after Ian Watkins' disgusting crimes, pretty much everyone unanimously hates him. Ian Watkins was the lead singer of the band Lost Prophets, a Welsh band that has sold over 3 million albums over the years. They were known for tracks like Rooftops and Last Train Home. They formed in 1997 and put out music until 2012, when the lead singer Ian Watkins was charged with multiple counts of SA. I know I gave a trigger warning earlier, but in my opinion this is one of the grosser entries on the list, so be warned again. But let's continue. Apparently, even before the arrest, Ian's behaviors had been reported to the police as early as 2008, but nothing had been done about it. His bandmates said that they had no idea about what he was up to, and apparently Ian had a drug problem that they said drove them apart. Even their manager said she had no idea about what Ian was up to.
Something like that happens, and you would imagine people would know what's going on.
But multiple people reported it to the police. How did y'all not hear of these things being reported? Like, I know they didn't do nothing, but I'd have been like, nah, bro, you weird. Let me separate.
I know it would be in plain sight or anything like that, but it seemed a lot of things had been happening without people knowing about it. But
I mean, the level of how fucked up it was, like, sort of, I think, validates them not knowing, because like there's no way any sane person could have even an inkling of what's going on, and ignore it or support it. So there's just no way that any of them had a clue.
As they further drifted apart, Ian got his own dressing room, and apparently the abuse of children occurred more often as he had his own space. One of Ian's ex-girlfriends said that she remembers him showing her graphic images with minors, so she reported it to the police, but they didn't do anything about it. She was actually one of 6 people who spoke to the police about what Ian was up to between 2008 and 2011, so it seemed like the police were really lacking. In 2009, Watkins told his ex that he was abusing a 2-year-old child in California while the band was recording in LA. She contacted the child's parents, who also reported Watkins, but again, no police action was taken. In 2010, an Australian woman also came forward claiming Ian had assaulted her child, but again, no police action was taken. Ian got arrested a couple of times in 2012 on drug charges, and the second time he got arrested, they also found CP. He pleaded not guilty to the explicit material charge, but shortly after parted ways with the band as the damage had already been done. Then, a month after leaving the band, he was arrested on a third time for drug charges. As a result, in connection to the previous investigation, police searched his home as well as a computer where they found a bunch of CP. After this discovery, Watkins was arrested, then charged with conspiracy to engage in sexual activity with a 1-year-old girl, possession and/or distribution of indecent images of children, and extreme animal pornography. So this guy was clearly a...
He's a deviant. What the Sir. Why? Why? And don't say the drugs made you do it.
A sicko. Ian pled guilty to attempted rape and sexual assault of a child under 13. He also pled guilty to 3 counts of sexual assault involving children, 6 counts of taking, making, or possessing indecent images of children, and 1 count of possessing an extreme graphic image involving a sex act on an animal. One of his victims was a baby boy, and Watkins even sent a text to the boy's mother saying, "If you belong to me, so does your baby." So this stuff was just absolutely disgusting. The police investigation into Watkins was codenamed Operation Globe and involved a British intelligence agency, the GCHQ, which decrypted a hidden drive on Ian's computer which contained evidence of the abuse. The police noted that Watkins' password they decrypted read, "I kids."
I'm done. Like, bro, why are you on the earth? That's your password? You shouldn't even denied it the first. Like, bro, the fact that this is your password and you denying this for multiple years, like, bro, you've been guilty. Nah, I did it. At what point did you say, no, I did it? Like, come on, bro.
They also said after Watkins' guilty plea was accepted that on a phone call with a female fan, he referred to his crimes as mega lols. So after all of that, in 2013, Ian Watkins was sentenced to 29 years in prison for multiple sexual offenses. He was charged with essaying young children and infants, and he also was charged with possession of extreme CP and also animal materials. He also got a sentence increased by 10 months after they caught him with a phone in prison. The judge said that the case plunged into new depths of depravity. A senior officer of the investigating team described Ian as a committed, organized and potentially the most dangerous sex offender he had ever dealt with. As you can imagine, the situation absolutely destroyed the name of the band, the rest of the Lost Prophets members' careers, and even their label.
Yeah, it's just really, really hard for them to have everything taken away, especially because they'd invested. I mean, these are people with wives, kids, everything. It was a good living for them, and everything like that's taken away in one go. And you got to reevaluate your life and think, why have you spent all the time doing that? It's horrendous, and for such a great bunch of creative people as well.
A few years later, Ian was caught trying to groom a young mother of a 2-year-old girl through a series of letters from behind bars. Again, the officers were negligent and assumed that these were just crazy rumors from a fan or something like that. But on the bright side of all this, in 2023, Ian was taken hostage by 3 other inmates who stabbed him and then released him 6 hours later. The weapon they—
No, don't release him. Poke him again. What?
used was a sharpened toothbrush, and they stabbed him over a drug debt. So yeah, rightfully so, everyone in the industry hates this guy. He's probably one of the most disgusting people on this list, and I think Corey Taylor summed it up very well when he said,
it was Metallica, us, and Lost Prophets. Yeah.
Hey-o!
Hey!
All right, yeah.
That dude.
Yeah, he's a mess.
There's not enough pain in the world for that.
Yeah.
And while there's no justifying what Ian Watkins did, well, I don't know. There's not an excuse for Rick James either, but he did some pretty crazy stuff. Rick James was a very popular singer, songwriter, and record producer. He had a very long career in the music business and had multiple albums go gold, with his track Street Songs going platinum. He also had the hit song Super Freak, which, fun fact, never actually won a Grammy, but when MC Hammer sampled it for Can't Touch This, then he got a Grammy. So I thought that was interesting. Well, regardless, you guys know who Rick James is.
I'm Rick James, bitch!
Come on, man.
One thing that was very well known about Rick James is that he suffered from drug addiction to many different drugs. His drug habits led to multiple hospitalizations.
Off into drugs then at that time, seriously. And it was like a time in my life when things were happening real fast, and I didn't quite have a serious grip on, on things.
On top of this, he had suffered a stroke from a blood vessel which burst during a show. Then he had hip replacement, which was also attributed to jumping around on stage, and substance abuse. His drug addiction also caused problems in areas than his health, because at one point during his coke addiction for about 5 years straight, Rick James says he was spending $7,000 a week on drugs. And it was also this drug use that led us to his crime.
It was a month ago yesterday that Rick James was arrested along with his girlfriend Tanya Hijazi for allegedly imprisoning a 24-year-old woman in his Hollywood Hills home, torturing her allegedly with a hot cocaine pipe and forcing her to commit sexual acts on his girlfriend Tanya Hijazi.
During a week-long binge, James and his girlfriend at the time, Tanya, were arrested on charges of kidnapping a 24-year-old girl and holding her hostage for up to 6 days. They tied her up.
But you, Rick James, why would you do this? Oh, they wanted to burn her, clearly, because, like, I'm pretty sure the sexual acts Shawty would have went for it. But this is crazy.
Forced her to perform sexual acts, and burned her legs and abdomen with the hot end of a crack pipe.
According to police, the 25-year-old alleged victim claims she met Rick James and his female companion at a party. She says the trio then returned here to James' Hollywood home. It was on the nights of July 16th and 17th that alleged victim claims she became a virtual prisoner here, held at gunpoint, even tied up and tortured, she claims, by being burnt with the hot end of a crack cocaine pipe.
If convicted on all these charges, Rick James faced life in prison for assault with a deadly weapon, aggravated mayhem, torture, forcible oral copulation, false imprisonment, and kidnapping. A year later, while out on bail for those charges, he and his girlfriend then kidnapped another girl. This time, it was a music executive who thought she was meeting up with Rick and Tanya for a business meeting. The executive claims that over the 20-hour period that she was held hostage, she was beaten. Rick James was found guilty on both occasions, but he nearly avoided the torture charge, which could have put him away for life. While serving his 5-year sentence, James lost a civil suit to the executive and was forced to pay her nearly $2 million. After serving a little over 2 years, James was released. At just 56 years old, Rick James was found dead in his home due supposedly to natural causes. His official cause of death was from pulmonary failure and cardiac failure. His autopsy did find a bunch of really small amounts of drugs in his system, so it's possible these aided in his downfall. However, the coroner did say none of the drugs or drug combinations were found to be at levels that were life-threatening in and of themselves. So it's unfortunate that Rick James' drug problem caused so many issues for him throughout his life, and while Rick James' crimes were motivated by drugs, Gigi Allen was just insane. Gigi Allen is an artist who I feel like his life needs a little bit of a backstory, like how his dad named him Jesus Christ. Gigi's father was a religious fanatic that threatened his family with death and even dug graves in their cellar, often saying he would fill them soon. His father despised pleasure and allowed his family very little contact with others. The family lived a primitive existence and were more like prisoners than a family. The most ironic...
Bro, some people don't deserve kids. Like, huh? Where the police at? Pull up on that.
Part is that Gigi said he was glad to experience that kind of upbringing because it made him a warrior soul at an early age. Because of his rough upbringing, he was a bad student, so they placed him in special ed classes and they forced him to repeat the 3rd grade. According to his brother, Gigi was bullied a lot for being non-conforming.
What am I looking at right now? Yo, there's no way that was a popular haircut. Nigga got lamb chops and a literal bush on under his nose. How does your facial hair even grow like that? What the hell?
And in high school, he started cross-dressing. Gigi himself describes his childhood as very chaotic, full of chances and danger. We sold drugs, stole, broke into houses, cars, did whatever we wanted to for the most part, including all the bands we played in. People even hated us back then. So it makes sense why this guy ended up kinda nuts. During his career, he made mainly punk rock, shock rock, and outlaw country. He performed with a bunch of bands throughout his career, and the main reason for him being placed in the shock rock genre is because of his live performances. On stage, he would self-mutilate, poop on stage, and assault audience members, all of which he has been arrested and imprisoned for multiple times. He's been labeled the most spectacular degenerate.
There's no way you are pulling up to a event, a concert, and this man is throwing feces at you like he is an ape. Like, he himself, it's weird, but like, as long as I don't gotta witness a M, I'm fine. You throwing feces at me? I'm not pulling up to the show with no damn umbrella.
In rock and roll history and the toughest rock star in the world. So honestly, most of his notoriety comes from his stage performances and all of his antics, even though his music really wasn't that bad. However, his music was often poorly recorded, produced, distributed, and received, but because of his personality and his antics, he developed a cult following. During a famous interview known as Gigi's Last before his death, he openly stated that he would take his own life or take his fans with him. When asked for clarification, he doubled down and said that he would either kill himself or kill his fans and then himself. He stated, "It's like I've got this wild soul that just wants to get out of this life. It's too confined in this life. I think to take yourself out at your peak, if you could die at your peak, your strongest point, then your soul will be that much stronger in the next existence." After this, he made a claim about the fact that he could sleep with minors, girls and boys, and animals, and then he claimed that he R-worded both women and men at his concerts. So clearly this guy was nuts and said a lot of crazy messed up things, and it seems like based on his claims he wasn't lying. In 1989, Allen was arrested and charged with assault with intent to do great
But it's the difference between doing a bit and becoming, he's wilding. There's no way you openly admit to doing all of these things and then go do all of these things. What in the self-snitch? What?
Bodily harm less than murder to a female acquaintance. At first, Gigi denied the claims, stating that the woman was a willing participant in their sexual activities. He did admit to cutting her, burning her, and drinking her blood. But
sir, no one, and I mean no, hopefully no one, would allow that to be a consensual act. Why? What? Y'all niggas not vampires? This is weird.
That she did the same thing to him. Allen also said that there were a lot of major inconsistencies in the woman's story, but in the end, he ended up accepting a plea deal, which reduced the charge to a felony assault. As a result, he was imprisoned for 2 years. In the months and years before his death, Gigi's fame grew substantially, making appearances on big shows like Jerry Springer. His last show ever ended after just 3 songs when a fight broke out, and then him and his fans went parading throughout the streets. He went back to a friend's apartment to keep the party going, and at this party he ingested a large amount of heroin, which caused an overdose and killed him. His friends didn't actually realize that he was dead, so they took a Polaroid picture with his corpse until they realized he was dead, and then they called an ambulance. After being buried, his grave was frequently vandalized by fans with urine, poop, cigarette butts, and alcohol.
Revenge! I'm just saying, bro, a nigga not about to throw nothing at me. And all that, what's no, they wildin', bro, but that's probably the real relationship he had with his fans. Like, yeah, bro, you throw feces at me, vice versa. What? Urine? What? Y'all nasty, bro.
All of which was discouraged by Gigi's mother, and in 2010 the tombstone was removed entirely after it was knocked off its base by a fan. So I didn't really focus too much on the crime in this section, but I just thought this guy was crazy. I've heard some stories about him, so I wanted to tell you guys because it's just nuts. But if you guys did like this video, you may be interested in one of my videos on some of the...
Bro, I'm not watching this demonic energy ass. Is that still a comment? That's the end of the video. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, share the video, share your thoughts on the video in the comment section down below. Hit the notification bell so you can stay up to date with all the videos that I drop on this channel. And stay safe, y'all.
I'm a cowboy, can't stop me, ain't to live is to conquer. All this pain got me feeling accomplished. See this man turn me into a monster. Hey, I'm a cowboy, can't stop me, to live is to conquer. All this pain got me feeling accomplished. See this game turn me into a monster. I'm a cowboy, can't stop, can't stop. Hey, all that pain got me feeling jaded. Many to roll when I'm making. Still plugged into the mix, but lagging out before the update. Drop back in different times, same location.